Hi, it's Lindsay at Applied Mortgage. I'm here today with Kylene Canon from Canon Real Estate, and we're going to talk a little bit about the way a real estate agent is really important to have when you're listing your house. So, Kylene, can you talk a little bit about once you've already listed the house, you've shown it to probably quite a few people, and the market's pretty competitive, so you might have multiple offers that you're reviewing. How do you kind of go through that process with the seller?
So we look at any offers that come in, and we take a look at the different contingencies that each offer may have. Two of the bigger contingencies are financing, and then home inspection, which most offers have, and any other contingencies such as a home sale contingency if someone has to sell their house.
Okay.
So we look at those different contingencies and see what may be positive for the seller and what may be negative, and we can kind of maybe rule out offers based on those.
Okay, so a contingency is basically a condition. In order to buy the house, the buyer would have to complete X,
Correct.
Y, Z, A, B, C, whatever it ends up being.
Correct.
And then when you're looking at the different offers, so you're reviewing the contingencies, and then what about the timeline for closing?
The timeline is important. Obviously, it depends on the seller's circumstance and what kind of time frame they're looking for. One of the things that we look at as far as contingencies go, financing, we don't want that deadline to be very far out and close to the closing.
Right.
Also, the timeline for the home inspection, we want to make sure that's within a reasonable time frame. Usually that's 10 to 14 days from an accepted offer.
Okay, great. So home inspection timeline is usually, let's say 2 weeks, and then financing, what would you say is kind of an ideal? I know sometimes we communicate,
Yes.
This is where it's important to use a team who's familiar with each other, but what's kind of a typical commitment and then closing time frame?
We're usually looking at 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks for financing commitment, and then from there we'll determine where the closing would end up, but it's usually about 6 to 8 weeks from the time the offer comes in.
Yeah.
And it is important to talk to the lender to see if those time frames are going to be realistic, and it's great to have an open line of communication with the lender where we can say, is this realistic? Is this going to actually happen?
Yeah. Great. And then what about if you're looking at multiple offers and people have a pre-approval letter, hopefully?
Yes.
If they don't have one, you're probably going to exclude that offer, right? Or ask how they're getting their financing. But what do you actually look at as far as the buyer's profile when you're kind of assessing the different maybe types of financing or places or anything like that?
Right. So a few of the things that we look at is the buyer's down payment, how much money that they have down, what kind of financing they have. Whether it's a conventional loan, FHA, VA, and then another important part that we talk to the seller about is who they're financing through, who their pre-approval is through, because sometimes they can get a pre-approval and it's really not worth the paper it's written on, whereas we can, if they get a pre-approval through a lender that we feel very comfortable with, we can say, look at, this is, most likely going to happen because we have, good experience with this lender and worked with them before, things like that.
Definitely. So it sounds like the contingencies are really important, the timeline as far as kind of does that fit the seller's needs, and then also what type of loan and who they're working with are really important.
Correct.
So that's great. Well, thank you very much for kind of going over the offer review process from the listing side. And if anyone has questions at all, Kylene, again, is at Canon Real Estate in East Hampton. Thanks for listening.